What up, people? Apply at non-font. Oh boy. The centrist think tank, Third Way, is looking to pay someone between $140,000 and $150,000 to spend their days trying to dig up dirt on DSA members. Based? Bro, can't Claude do that shit? Feel like Claude could do that shit by now. They're trying to sell this gig as anti-extremism work, which I find completely disgusting. Assembling and updating a database of the DSA's most extreme ideas and statements in a repository of voting records, affiliations, and issue positions to make available to allies and partners. You should apply. I kind of doubt I'm qualified. Leading public opinion research to identify and test the contrast that move base voters away from these extreme candidates, overseeing the development of memos, talking points, rapid response materials, and other products that make the case against these extreme forces in American politics, promoting and marketing our research and materials to ensure they reach decision makers quickly, repeatedly, and at scale through a coordinated distribution infrastructure, recruiting and arming a group of young, diverse spokespeople to fight the DSA from a center-left perspective, and assembling a broad coalition of organizational partners to make the case against extremism. See, maybe I can join this group of people. For what it's worth, I found that Claude says Gemini is a good start, but doesn't find everything. Yeah, I imagine there's some stuff that you'd only be able to do by, like, actually contacting people. But, I mean, you can get Claude to write emails and shit. Probably have to have some moles at some of the meetings, though, to find out the real shit. The real shit. And it's something similar on a different topic for candidates on another topic. No, it doesn't find YouTube videos often or tweets, etc. Oh, damn. Running an earned media. You could at least, I don't know certain if these tools exist. You could tell Claude the vibe code one. But like you could probably download everyone's tweets, or like a certain person's all of their tweets, and you could probably tell Claude to find the best ones for you to use, if you don't want to read all them yourself and such. Running an earned media program to create a drumbeat of our message in op-eds, television appearances, podcasts, and traditional and digital media engagement. Incredible. Quote-unquote centrist think tank. Do they get APAC funding? Does APAC fund it? Must be APAC's doing. Must be APAC's doing. Clearly. Bro, I should have bet. No idea, but you should apply. There's no way. I bet if I looked at the qualifications, I would not, like, be qualified. But, you know, for the meme, I'll save it. Non-fillet fresh fish. Iceland. Fuck. Norway. Okay, yeah, Norway's number one. Alright, easy. Denmark? Okay. I feel like the UK is probably on there. Alright. Who is number 2? Canada or something, maybe? I don't know. It could be China, honestly. How long have you been podcasting? 5 to 8 years of experience in political organization, campaigns, leadership development, coalition building. Technically, in a really dumb sense, I've been streaming for like 10 years because I have, you know, there's streams of me playing Fortnite and fucking streaming random shit on the PlayStation that I had. But I don't think those count. I don't think the non-font Happy Wheels playthrough count as experience. So, not certain about that one. Ironically, that's the only qualification I think you lack. Oh. What's your rebuttal to banning risk rating requires large restrictions on insurers' ability to compete? I don't know that I would have an objection to merely that. What's the what implication am I supposed to get from that? Banning risk rating requires large restrictions on insurers' ability to compete. Yeah, that's why, like, yeah, okay. My understanding is pretty widely accepted that that's true, and that's like the ACA, part of the reason why it led to insurer consolidation, and insurer consolidation, all else equal, is probably bad. But welcome back, Easy Money. Damn, I don't know. I'm gonna guess China, but I don't know. Fuck, Sweden. I guess that makes sense. In Chile. $115 billion, and it's all oil. And a little bit of precious metals. And it's all gold. Chad. Uh, 3,000 kilometers has got to be... I don't know how far. I don't know how big a kilometer has got. I don't know. Does that put it in the Middle East or not? Like Middle East, like, you know, not on the African continent. I don't know. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be just Libya.
Chad streamer.
Thanks for the membership, Dylan Thomas. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There we go. There's the actual message it read out. I was confused what I was reading. Yeah. Damn. Fuck. Saudi Arabia? Damn. Iraq? Yeah. Control F, permit innovation. National review. I'm assuming you mean this. These trends tend to be stifled because whenever you permit an innovation in product design, there's always a really good chance you open a loophole for risk selection. This means that you have another loophole you have to plug to make sure the new product design, let's say high deductible health plans or reference pricing, doesn't appeal to more low risk rather than high risk. With perfect risk adjustment, meaning a system of taxes and subsidies to transfer funds between insurers to perfectly offset the variation of expected healthcare costs associated with covering enrollees with differing medical risk. You could solve that problem, but that perfection is not to be expected on this earth. To put it the other way around, I don't think there's much possibility of reaping enormous monopoly profits off insurance in the private sector. Anyway, unless some firm was given a de facto monopoly, competition could stimulate innovation, which, heavens knows, we need. But those attempts get stifled by regulation, as you could spin out a story about how almost any innovation will advantage some risks more than others. Okay, maybe I'm missing something. What does competition in insurance markets bring? The government is ultimately going to bear most of the risks associated with those who have pre-existing conditions. Probably not very much in terms of pure insurance function. Pure insurance function isn't that hard or complicated to perform anyway. Competition can probably still be helped in terms of innovation and product design or compensation or compensating providers or organizing networks. Whenever you permit innovation in product design, there's always a really good chance you open a loophole for risk selection. This means you have another loophole you have to plug to make sure the new product design, let's say high deductible health plans or reference pricing, doesn't appeal to more low risk rather than high risk. Okay, okay. I feel like I would have to watch some more of this interview. I think I hear what he's saying. Sorry, my brain is tired, okay? I just got off of work. He's saying, like, given that there is imperfect risk adjustment, you don't want to create plans that appeal primarily to low risk people because why exactly doesn't appeal to more low risk rather than high risk? What's confusing? I don't understand. First of all, when he says product design here, my mind jumps to providers, but he's talking about different types of healthcare plans because it's with reference to insurance companies. But I don't understand it doesn't appeal to more low risk rather than high risk. I don't necessarily. So with risk adjustment, if you made a plan that appealed to more low risk people, wouldn't you get subsidies for doing so? I'm just a little okay. I'm confused what it means. Loophole. For risk adjustment, you could solve that problem. Could community rating be made to work with a stronger mandate, better risk adjustment, and more thorough regulation of essential benefits? I suppose it could if you had the political will and administrative expertise to plug all holes, but it's one of these things where you plug one hole and the leak comes somewhere else. By effectively making all insurance premiums compulsory, which some countries do, or with an absolute binding individual mandate, it could work. But effectively raising a subsidy from a head tax, at least on some portion of the population, the lowest people who aren't poor, usually we don't think that that's the best kind of tax. There should be some relationship of contribution to income. I understand this part. Without its competition, insurance prices bring it, the government is ultimately going to bear much of the risk associated with those who have pre-existing conditions. Probably not very much in terms of the pure insurance function. Okay. Maybe I do understand what he's saying. What's up to Hammer? You think Count Binance could win today in the UK? Oh, Binface. Sorry. Why? I don't know why I read it as fast. Probably not. Was Polymarket got him at though? Isn't it Ben Head? I thought it was. Oh no, it is Ben Face. I think. $10 to $20. Right now, 10 to 20% is 54% chance it has. Man, I should have bet on Hong losing. I forget what's was it the Crowler guy or whoever the last name is who won. APAC pulled through for him. They couldn't pull through for my $15 Haley Stevens bet. Goddamn. They hate me. Crowley, yeah. Which it probability of theism being true. Okay, guys, it just went up you know, at least 0.1%. Okay, because goddamn, dropped out. but because of his fucking vision. It was revealed to him in a dream that he should run again. Oh, Chris Pope. That's who Pope is. What's up, NRK Life? Welcome back. Milwaukee race results were close AF. Also, RIP USB drama. Hong? Wait. RIP Hong. That's true. USB, do you mean DSA? Without risk adjustment, ensure competition down. Okay. Try to attract healthy people. Avoid sick people. Competition becomes risk selection. Oh, the arrows are supposed to be pointing to each other, right? Not supposed to be down. Then I can understand. Yeah, ensure competition, no advantage in attracting healthy people, compete on efficiency, quality networks, etc. Competition is generally okay. Sure. Out of the 9 USBs, 5 of them missing election results. Wait, no, I haven't seen that. I haven't. Why are they like that? Sorry, I've been plugged out a little bit. Plugged out? Is that how you say that? I've not been plugged in. Just because I've been working and I've been lazy and playing video games as well, but in source. Yeah, I was looking for one. I couldn't find. I was gonna ask. Human Air Forces delaying Milwaukee primary results. How did I use a missing result? Why is it like this? Five out of 9 flash drives brought to central account had the audit log downloaded and not the results. It's human error. They had to go back to the operations center at the central account to re-download the results from 5 machines. The results will then be sent back to the Milwaukee County Courthouse to be re-uploaded. Incredible. Nearly 15,000 ballots have yet to be counted. No, yeah, I didn't see this. Do you understand it now? Yeah. I just didn't. I don't. Why does it? The word loophole is weird to me, and then I gotta understand the point about the competition becoming like the competition is on the like risk selection margin. But it was just a little, I don't know, weirdly phrased to me. I did order the book, another copy of this guy's book, the American Way of Welfare, so it can be scanned. I put in an order for it to be scanned, but I think it takes them like, I don't know, way too long. They said a scan date is like fucking the 15th or something. Not the 15th, the 25th or something. Too long. Yeah, August 25th is the scan date. And then I think another day for them to fucking actually send me the PDF. Also for DSA, they've done way better than I thought they would have. Them being this close should be a wake-up call for Dems, but something tells me it won't be. Well, unfortunately, I think, like, I don't know what wake-up call means, but it is a very big discussion right now with every single fucking streamer I watch and everyone I follow on Twitter talking about it. And I think even more mainstream people talking about it as well. I think Bill Maher did a segment on it. Probably some other people, late night shows and such have. And I think, unfortunately, the margin at which Dems are likely to adjust is like mostly leading into that rhetoric and some of the policy as well. Since we use community rating now, our risk adjustment system, it's very imperfect because of the ACA. Yeah, I've always granted to you there's imperfect risk adjustment. I just say, usually my, what's up, Trotsky? Are you pro-China yet? Wait, it's just something that should have updated me to being pro-China. No. But like, I just don't, you'll say something like, Nafon, don't you condemn the fucking, ACA because the risk not the risk medical loss ratio, it's like raised premiums or whatever, and it's like that is one mechanism by which it could raise premiums. I'm just like uncertain of what the net effects are because there are other things like risk adjustment that is supposed to offset that, like the individual mandate that is supposed to offset that. I just don't like there are some things where I don't despise or have strong opinions even sometimes on like particular views of things, like. But I hate the way like people talk about them that reveals they don't like understand how some of the things work or whatever. And I don't think you quite fall into this camp, PC buddy, but I think you get close to whatever. Where it's like Obamacare is very explicitly like meant to be like 3-leg stool thing, right? We have all these policies that are to some extent supposed to be able to offset each other, because we understand the effects of this on its own might be negative, but like overall we're going to get to like a net positive outcome or whatever. But like when people just talk about like them individually or whatever as like being so fucking horrible, terrible, and evil, it pisses me off. Or like when people talk about, I don't know, like Social Security or whatever, and they're like, we could fix all the demographic concerns by just having privatized accounts or whatever. And it's like, I don't even hate the idea of like a privatized retirement system, but it's just like straight up not, just like does not fix the demographic issue unless it leads to like more real growth or whatever. But it's not usually the argument they're making. Usually they just don't understand that a fully funded system, you can only consume the real output that exists in any given period, and that doesn't change whether you are consuming it from a bunch of like assets that maybe have a high nominal value because they're like equity in stocks or whatever. But if you try to actually liquidate it, there'd just be inflation in the goods market. And or once people have all those assets that have gone up a lot of value, when they try to like sell them, the value of the assets would just go down because there's now a mismatch between the amount that current period retirees want to sell and the amount of current period workers, if there's been stagnant growth, want to save. So the value of assets would just go down. Like, it just like doesn't fix the demographic issue. What's up, North? What's your opinion on all the leftist memes? I don't know, dog. Kill me. Kill me. Maybe honoring the logical space of reasons would give you an updated favor of China. More sincerely, though, BR is really good, arguably better than World Bank investments. I don't have a particularly strong view on that. Like I've heard people say that, and like it makes sense to me why that would be the case. Even just like in terms of like, China like wants to be seen better on the world stage, or just like has to present a more favorable alternative in order to like quote unquote outcompete the World Bank. But yeah, in terms of infrastructure, the World Bank is better at health and education investment at the moment. Yeah. Though there's selection bias issues there. I imagine there'd be, it'd be kind of hard to get on a fair comparison. And also the World Bank and IMF, maybe the IMF, in fairness, more so than the World Bank, there's like probably sub-selected bias in the other direction because they, from my understanding, are more in charge of like the bailouts for countries and such. Not and as far as I know, Belt and Road Initiative hasn't done that type of like financial restructuring and stuff. They just kind of do infrastructure and such. I don't think they are saying that'll fix the demographic issues. They say that the impacts of them won't be as bad. I think a lot of people say that it'll fix the demographic issue. I think that is a pretty common perception that like moderate conservative people even have. Yeah. Not like, I think a lot of economists don't make that point. So like, I'm not saying you're going to see economists that people know about on Twitter or whatever saying precisely that. But I think there's a kind of relatively common perception amongst normie people and even political commentators who just like haven't read Nicholas Barr that they think it's going to fix a demographic issue. And I also, hold on. I've read only the introduction of this so far. And I've skimmed or like flipped through sections of it. And I like it, but I also just have issues. I just have some issues that I think are like better presented in the welfare state as piggy bank and machinery government. Even though I also have issues with those books, like the machinery government book by Michael Heath, I think his author's name or whatever. He's like, there's memes about like healthcare in there. It's just like kind of silly, but you can just at Chris Pope on Twitter with your issues. You get him on the stream. But my issues are like not like that crazy big or whatever. And I've only read the introduction. Maybe I'll write a Substack book review of it, guys. But like, it seems like a big thing in his book because it's mentioned in the introduction. Actually, the introduction has named it, and is mentioned several other times in the introduction is like Lincoln's maxim. The legitimate object of the government is to do for a community of people whatever they need to have done, but cannot do at all, or cannot do so well do for themselves in their separate individual capacities. And all that the people can individually do as well for themselves, government ought not interfere. And he makes a point that like, Obama, FDR, and a bunch of conservative Republican people, like they all like say the thing or whatever. That's a Keynesian thing. I just think it's like, I don't know, too broad everything to be that meaningful. I just think like the reason like both sides of the aisle, okay, agree with the sentiment, it's mostly because it's just like not a particularly specific thing. It's broad enough to be interpreted by Keynes said that. I mean, Keynes might have also said that, but Lincoln, as far as I know, came before Keynes. I just think like it's better to say, you know, the government should enhance total welfare, and it should engage in, you know, Pareto improving policies. I guess it's from machinery government, which, like I said, I also have issues with. I've not read the full book, but I've read more of it than just the introduction. This is specifically talking about like the redistribution justification for the welfare state versus the like social insurance justification. But I like this framing. The reasoning underlying the redistributive dimension is something like this. These services must be provided by the public sector because the private sector is unable to do so efficiently. However, as long as they are being done in the public sector, we may as well finance them that way, in a way that is progressive with respect to the with respect to income. Can't fucking read. Oh my god. This will allow us to carry a measure of redistribution without suffering too much from the efficiency equality trade-off. Like this is to be clear, when he says this, he's saying the fundamental purpose is not the redistributionary purpose or like the egalitarian purpose. It's just a broader social insurance purpose that benefits everyone ex ante. I agree. Like To be clear, easy buddy, I'm not making a strong claim as to how many of these policies like actually exist. You know, CCP is pretty close to CCP. But like this is just actually. Why am I showing you this? I vibe coded a better version of this. Boom. How do I, can't I close the sidebar? Maybe I can't. Oh, there we go. I'm smart. Like this is a diagram and not silly or not confusing ways. We start from the status quo of the welfare, rich and poor people. This line leaves. Oh, that's the equality line. And there's Pareto improving options that, you know, make everyone better off and no one worse off. And you can do that either in a way that also reduces inequality, gets closer to the equality line, or in a way that point A just leaves the inequality fixed. This is the line at which above total welfare rises. Like you would just imagine like having the area of the square here. It's going to be the same everywhere along this line. It's going to be lower if it's within this. There's all the welfare improving lines. I like this model. I like that explanation of things and such more. I'm gonna take a vibe code because Claude can't tell the difference between casting a fucking vector and updating when something hits something and casting a vector that it's nothing. Have you tried GPT 5.6, 5.6 Sol or whatever? I haven't used it very much, but it might work. Also, let me find this. The worst thing. Unforgivable. Cites Piketty, Zayas, and Zuckman. Oh my god. Unforgivable. Horrible. You can't even see that it's them. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. I think he probably cites him there to be charitable, because obviously the alternatives, like David Fleming's work is less charitable. It's going to show that the top 10% pay more in taxes than Piketty, Zayas, Zuckman do. So probably just being charitable there. It's not actually bad, but you know. You know. Okay, I'm saving this. Alright, I already saved this. I might be on, I don't know when this would be. But the Marketplace of Ideas people invited me to their next thing. I don't want to. I don't know how far they are in planning or whatever, but there'd be people on it talking about some of the DSA drama stuff or whatever. I haven't. We're not watching this whole thing. We're not watching it. We're watching 10 minutes of this. Okay, 10 minutes. Apparently people got that's mad about this stuff, bro. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Medicare does a poor job of setting prices. It pays insurers. Prices that we know insurers could set more accurately via competitive bidding. In part because risk adjustment is fee for diagnostic price setting that allows insurers to increase prices to super competitive levels. I probably just don't know enough to say confidently, but it's not. It would not be surprising me if it was true. Does a poor job of setting prices that pays insurers. Prices we know insurers could set more accurately via competitive bidding. In part because risk adjustment is fee for diagnosis price setting that allows insurers to increase prices to super competitive levels. I feel like I've read an abstract of a paper that more or less says this, but maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe there was a Nicholas Decker blog post. By the way, that has reminded me. Bro, I didn't I read the Decker blog post about 2008. Bro, I didn't know that it was the fucking like unions that we bailed out for GM and GM and Chrysler. Because that's usually like the one thing or whatever where it's like, yeah, this was like more or less basically like a bailout, okay? Like, you know, TARP, obviously, and the Federal Reserve, like, lending and such. Like, it was on, like, favorable terms, but at the end of the day, like, that money was paid back, right? The Fed had collateral for many of those loans. QE turned a profit, right? But GM and Chrysler was not like that, but it was apparently because he just bailed out a lot of their unions. They used control of the process to settle the unsecured claims of the union's retiree health trust above the secured claims of creditors who should have been paid first. It was a part of an enormous giveaway to politically favored actors. Why do we do this, bro? Why do we just infinitely bail out fucking unions' pensions, bro? Because we literally also bailed out, you know, United Auto Workers pensions. Am I making this up? United Auto Workers, UAW. What's the one Biden did? This. Why do Democrats not do this? Well, when I say we, I mean, you know, we as a country. To be clear, assign some, you know, I blame the Democrats here, but wasn't it the, I could be wrong, the United Auto Workers that Biden we bailed out for the with the American Rescue Plan? Struggling multi-employer pension plans. Oh, Teamsters. I think it's Teamsters. Okay. The state needs to mandate reverse seniority authority within all unions, and NLRB needs to be all Zoomers. This is true. This is how we fix total boomer luxury communism, guys. Teamsters Central State Pension Fund, covering nearly 400,000 workers and retirees, is a Marquee beneficiary of pension providers attached to a larger relief bill, but labor leaders say as many as 200 plans will be shored up, providing direct benefits to as many as 1.5 million people in the short term and many more overall. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know we put so much focus on the fucking unions. Owed billions of dollars to Unions Voluntary Employee Beneficiary Association when they went bankrupt. The union automakers created VIVA in 2008 to assume responsibility for UAW's generous retiree health benefits. The benefits allowed UAW members to retire in the mid-50s with what are we doing? With minimal out-of-pocket healthcare expenses for the rest of their lives. GM owed $20.6 billion and Chrysler owed $8 billion. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bedrock principle bankruptcy laws is that creditors with similar claims priority receive equal treatment. If you owe $1,000 each on 2 credit cards in bankruptcy, you cannot choose to pay $900 to Citi and only $200 to Chase. Each of the creditors is entitled to equal percentage recovery. In the auto bankruptcies, however, the administration gave the unsecured claims of Viva much higher priority than those of other unsecured creditors, such as suppliers and unsecured bondholders. Unions are just cartels. What's up, Corey Eander? Let him know, son. Let him... Oh, wait. Did someone raid? Who raided? What the fuck? Shout out to whoever raided. I appreciate it. Bro, shouldn't it tell me? I love YouTube. 56 viewers who rated. Oh, Food Shops. There we go. Thank you, Food Shops. Food Shops rated. I appreciate it, Food Shops. Let's go. Shout out to Food Shops. We chill. We chill. Let's go. It has. I don't know why YouTube sucks so much. Well, I know why, because they care more about videos and streaming and such. I love YouTube, okay, but it shows me who rated when I open a new tab with my stream in it, but it doesn't show me on my end in my chat who rated, like in my in the YouTube Studio live control panel where I see the YouTube chat. It's not there. Yeah, incredible. True. They want to watch you too, lol. Or they want you to watch you too, lol. It's true. It's true. Shout out YouTube. I mean, I watch me too. I got my, the laptop that my chat's on. Might have my own stream on there. Might have my own stream on there. Why not? Why not? Okay, if I'm running the chat captures off of that laptop, gotta have my stream on there too. Free watch time. Free watch time. Also, likes and views should be performative indicators over watch time. I mean, watch time isn't watch time the thing YouTube prioritizes for the most. I feel like that is what that is, to my knowledge, what YouTube cares about the most. On YouTube vids, watch time. Oh, watch time for streams. Okay. I'm too lazy to edit videos. Is the unfortunate thing there. But yeah, I was watching the new Unlearning Economics video, which I don't hate Yui. Okay, and this video is like mostly fine or whatever, dude. I'm gonna get copy struck for the fucking Simpsons clips in this dog. You like literally said this, but you know, they're a good monopoly because actually workers are only paid 80% of their marginal which I have to look at his source for that. I haven't done that yet. I listened to it on the car on the way to work. But he cites a paper that's like workers are only paid like 80 something percent of their marginal product. But there's like employer costs is just like the cost of like training and such. And that's, I don't know if they are accounting for that or not, because to my understanding, once you do account for that, they get paid very close to the marginal product on average. But
in economic theory, a union is actually a monopoly, as in the workers who are selling their labour, so to speak, become the only game in town. On its own, this is a bad thing, as just like the minimum wage, they push wages too high. But, like the minimum wage, when combined with a monopsony buyer, it actually leads to a better outcome. The reason Mr. Burns doesn't want to increase wages is because doing so will give workers ideas, rather than because
it's all the, I won't say about the Simpsons, but with constant reference to it. So they're gonna fucking come after me. They're gonna come after me. It's interesting that no lefties have commented on the free marketers' all-out assault on Vance. I mean, why would they? Why would they even be, in fact, why would they even be like familiar? Like they're not like following Phil Magnus fucking tweet about JD Vance all day. Like why would they care about that? Like this is from Tyler Cohen's Big Business, more concretely CEO, or I think a bit earlier. Where's it say the average worker? Oh, workers in general are paid no more than 85% of the marginal product. That difference is largely due to the cost of searching for workers and training them to become valuable contributors. So where's the citation for this? Because I wonder if it's the same thing. See, Eisen, 2012.
it will have a notable impact on his operation. The economist John Kenneth Galbraith once called unions a countervailing power to big companies like the nuclear power plant, an arrangement which was another part of the post-war consensus. Dubé and his co-authors find again and again that...
Also, vindication, okay? It's just confusing me more and more, okay? He says Dubé, okay? Aaron Dubé. People call me crazy, they call me crazy, they said non-fun. It's Aaron Dube. He says Dubé too. Okay. Oh no. State of Working of America Data Library, Economic Policy Institute. Oh no.
common and most location experience.
Why is most of the stuff in this video fine? Maybe that's not. Maybe when I say most of it's like fine, I mean it's like not. It's not slop in the same sense that like a lot of other lefty stuff I think is slop, and it's like remember I was talking earlier about like how I hate sometimes like conservatives that like make a point about like how fully funding the pension system would fix Social Security or whatever. It's just like apparent they don't Like if you just like think in terms of like models or whatever, it's just like kind of clear that's not the case. Or like they rave about like one part of like Obamacare, and it's like I don't like have a huge issue with just a position that like Obamacare was like net bad. I think that's perfectly reasonable to have, but like when they kind of lose their context of some things or whatever, I think Yui is at the very least citing actual papers. It's clearly as an understanding of some of the evidence here, right? Now I think there was one part where he says like Aaron Dube's findings are like, you know, unambiguous and like universally accepted. It's just like clear. That's just like not the case. I think that's just a lie. That's just a lie. There's a lot of debate over it still, but you know, that's what I mean.
And past employment, who start at similar jobs in different companies. Different companies may have different wage policies, so how likely they are to quit this new job tells you about the effect of the pay premium they get and not the other confounding characteristics of the worker. Dube & Co. use data from the US state of Oregon, which covers a wide range of industries common and most workers are therefore underpaid, which is where the 80% figure comes from. Fewer unions have led to the average worker being screwed. In their Oregon sample common a wide range of industries and employer sizes. They find that if a company pays 10% less than a competitor, quits will be roughly 20% higher. Although this is
I don't understand economics, but I remember thinking economics seems like the best of the what economic lefties have to offer. Basically, Yui's article on rent control was horrendously bad. I don't like that article to be clear, but I don't think it's like the same type of slop that other people do.
This is a real response. It is quite modest. In a competitive market, the response would be much more dramatic. They conclude that monopoly power is pretty common and most workers are therefore underpaid, which is where the 80% figure comes from. Fewer unions have led to the average worker being screwed. In their Oregon sample at least, the average worker could reasonably ask applies to the whole US economy. Dube & Co. reckon that the average firm gets away with paying workers about 80% of what they would be paid in a competitive market.
Okay, no. He cites Dube for that. Dube. Is he just citing the wage standard, the whole book for that? To regular rent control seems to just not be a particularly winning formula. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. I don't know if they keep challenging quantifying monopoly powers, estimating the extent to which separations in recruitment vary when a firm pays higher versus lower wage to its workers, something we refer to as wage policy. However, individual workers' wages may vary for reasons that go beyond a firm's wage policy. I don't know if there's any estimate of like whether workers are quote unquote underpaid in this, or if he just cites the wage standard, which is a whole book for that, and also a whole book that cites evidence in the book. I don't think it's unfair to just to appeal to the wage standard to some extent or whatever. But like, if you're gonna like, don't just like cite the book. Please like cite. I'm sure there's a study that he gives in it that would be relevant. Okay, let me check out this Eisen 2012. Does it give me the name anywhere other than his Eisen? Can I find it by just Eisen 2012? I don't think I can. I think open borders with Canada would be fine. But have you considered that all the Indians would just go to Canada and then come here? I'm seeing effective high skilled immigration policy on firms. ISIN 2012. Marginal product. Why it's just I bet fucking Claude can find it. Give me a second.
Market. How do they know this? They look at how responsive workers are to changes in wages. The reasoning
As long as we have control over Canada's immigration policy as well, so we should just make Canada a state. It's basically the which based true. Okay, but
goes that if workers have plenty of bargaining power, they can just quit if their wages are too low. This graph shows the clear negative relationship between worker separations on the y-axis and company pay premium on the x-axis. What makes this graph more than just a correlation is that they look at workers who are very similar to each other in terms of education, experience, and past employment, who start at similar jobs in different companies. Different companies may have different wage policies, so how likely they are to quit this new job tells you about the effect of the pay premium they get and not the other confounding characteristics of the worker. Dubé & Co. use data from the US state of Oregon, which covers a wide range of industries and employer sizes.
Where does he say? Somewhere in his video, he says like, it's widely accepted. Or undisputed or something. And it just was like crazy to me. It's just like crazy to me.
Low prices.
Like he doesn't mention the even the relatively more recent issues people brought up with Aaron Doob's paper. It's about just I'm gonna forget the specifics, but it's about the denominator that they use for one of their employment figures, basically, because I think they use employment that doesn't take into consideration the movement of workers, basically. I forget the exact specifics, but when you switch it out, which is like log employment, or you use a measure that does try to account for the movement of workers between like cities and such, then you do get like negative effects of employment on from minimum wages. Okay, Claude seems to have found it, guys. Here, this is Scott Sumner blog post. This post will probably annoy almost everyone, as I argue that both the left and the right misunderstand the issue of wages and productivity. Here's Alphaville at the Financial Times. Hold on, is this? Nope. Certain unions have good training programs, treating workers like investments a little more, which is like a thing that can happen. It does happen. There are positive effects of unions on product quality sometimes. But it's just like, if a firm would find it profitable to pay workers higher wages because they think it's going to like raise product quality, they would probably do that. Now the point like Aaron Doob makes he makes it, I think, in an interview with UE in that video, is like, oh, well, there's no effect on it's funny because they mentioned the fact that like, oh, there's not any like effect of employment from minimum wage unions or whatever, but there's also like no effect on profitability. And under a monopsony model, which is what they use to justify unions and minimum wage and such, you actually would expect a negative effect on firm profitability under a monopsony model, because the monopsony is still profit maximizing, and they don't pay their workers that much because it's profit maximizing not to do so, right? Even if it has other negative effects. But regardless of that, I think it's funny that they don't take it as evidence against the monopsony model. And then there was something else I was halfway through saying, but then I forgot. Oh, you would expect firms to do it anyways. If it was actually profitable. Dude just says that like, oh, actually it can be just as profitable under multiple different business strategies or whatever. And it like, I don't know, probably you shouldn't constrain firms into one particular business strategy or limit their options from the business strategies they are able to do. But not to say a one-to-one carbon copy would map perfectly, but there might be elements that would be useful. Didn't they have lots of lead in their water? Or was it something else? What are we talking about here? Most people who I talk to think Flint still has poisoned water. Incredible. That doesn't just go away. I mean, if they had most of the pipes replaced, yeah, that's good. But otherwise, it's still there. Where? The lead still exists in the... Was it even... I don't actually even know specifically what caused the like hardcore contaminated water in Flint. It might have been the pipes, but as far as I know, Flint's water has been tested safe for some time now. They fixed it pretty fast. Didn't you see Obama drink it? Healthcare sectors are good in my opinion. Hospital needs employees willing to weather storms, and unions can protect workers from getting canned when the wind changes direction. Patient transporters take on so much risk. I mean, if I can imagine cases where unions would not actually increase the product quality for healthcare providers just because, you know, you might expect more wait times if people are given more generous time off and benefits and such, and given stronger protections from firing. Now, on the lead, it was released because Michigan finally decided to upgrade its pipes. Well, that's what I heard. Yeah, I don't know the like proximate cause, because I know it was like, at least for a little bit, their water was like actually like legitimately undrinkable, and I wouldn't expect that to happen just from like normal ordinary corrosion of pipes over time. I would think that the onset of that would be slower, but I don't know I don't know what the approximate cause was that made it super bad initially. I could look it up, but it's so much work. Can we ask Frank? Exclamation point, ask Frank, please. So well established since the 1980s, as workers have become more productive, wage growth hasn't kept pace. The marginal productivity theory of wages suggests that it would. As an observation, this is uncontroversial. The Commerce Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics produced a completely readable 14-page paper about it last year. The current CEA is definitely thinking about wage growth. It reported in September that wages are growing if you measure them correctly. Based. True. The second sentence is misleading. It's the increased productivity he refers to as a higher average product, not a higher marginal product. That doesn't mean that the theory workers are paid their MPs is exactly correct. I suspect it's only an approximation of reality, but you need other data to disprove this theory. It's also worth noting that the increased share of national income going to capital since the 1980s is largely due to the increased return on residential housing, a capital good. This is partly true, but it's also just because the 1986 tax reform kind of distorted which incomes are, or the amount of income that's just like pass-through income and reported as like technically capital income. Yeah, 1986 tax reform kind of messed up a lot of inequality data and labor share data. To people who own their own homes, they earn a return on that investment in the form of housing services that is higher than the 1980s, even as a share of GDP. Matthew Roganley, is that how you pronounce it? Roganley provides some evidence. Whoa, the chart. We got to update this chart. Ends in 2010. If you are worried about the typical worker, you should focus on the fact that average wages have risen faster than median wages due to greater inequality. Thus, the pay at the very top has increased much faster than at the median level. That's the actual concern. On the other hand, I believe that some on the right are too willing to wave away any concerns about wages By suggesting that wages equals MP of labor theory somehow proves that the existing wage distribution is fair. It may or may not be fair, but I don't believe that the wage equals MP labor theory has any bearing on the question. For instance, merely by changing the laws on intellectual property rights, you will impact the distribution of wage income. But if the appropriate IP laws are a complex issue about which even free market economists do not agree. There's no obvious straightforward way to think about the marginal product of labor. It depends on many institutional factors. Brunegg posting. Let's go. Scott Sumner, literally Brunegg posting. Some people probably visualize something like the following in a thought experiment. In 1820, a hardy pioneer and his family move out to a remote village in Montana where they can build a cabin, plant crops, and hunt for animals. There are no other families nearby. Doesn't that family earn their marginal product? Yes, but it's not why our intuition tells us that their compensation seems fair. Rather, the perceived fairness comes from the fact that they earn their total product. They earn 100% of the valley's GDP minus depreciation of the cabin. Back in the real world, workers do not earn 100% of GDP minus depreciation. Furthermore, the marginal product of a worker who cooperates with many other workers and many other machines doesn't necessarily match your intuitions as to what the term productivity means. There's nothing in marginal product theory to prevent a scenario where one man owns all the capital and earns 99% of national income, and the other 1% is divided between 150 million workers on the basis of the MP of each worker. It's obviously not likely to occur, but it's not ruled out by the theory, and it's very different from the intuition behind the Montana pioneer. I believe that utilitarianism provides Scott Sumner, holy base, provides a better way to think about wages and productivity, at least for economists. A sound public policy will involve a set of labor market regulations and income redistribution, then maximizes, I'm assuming it means that, maximizes the well-being of society as a whole. The concepts like fairness and marginal productivity of labor are not particularly helpful. Oh my God, yeah, so base, let's go. The counter argument to this approach is too dry for the average person who has very strong intuitions about fairness. It's this misinformation. Capital income is from the richest UBI. Are you memeing? Even worse, the average person has cognitive illusions about economics, which leads them to grossly underestimate the power of incentives. So if we take a dry utilitarian approach, the public will be led to support minimum wage laws, rent control, soak the rich taxes, tariffs on imports, and all sorts of other destructive policies because it looks like these boost domestic aggregate utility. To fight this bias, we need to create a public mythology of the hardy pioneer earning his marginal product, then extend the myth to the point where almost all workers are earning their just deserts. This mythology would also give us owners of housing units a right to charge whatever rent to people who voluntarily choose to use their property. Consumers have a right to buy goods from anywhere in the world. Immigrants have a right to live where they wish. Thus, the deontological approach to economic rights and fairness can be defended as a sort of correction to the cognitive bias in the literally selfie-facing posting. Let's go. Average person's economic thinking, which leads even right-wingers to be inappropriately fond of government intervention. Even many American conservatives favor socialist programs such as Medicare and trade barriers and oppose immigration. But I'm an economist, not a politician, so I'll keep fighting battles using the utilitarian ethical framework. I'll trust my readers at Econ not to suffer from these common cognitive biases. In my view, utilitarianism, properly understood, leads to a world that is 95% libertarian and 5% policies such as carbon taxes and low-wage subsidies. Wow. Holy base. Not what I was looking for, but close enough. This paper does not exist. Claude is making this up. This is a, speech. The catch, and it's a real one for citation purposes. The paper appears to have never been publicly circulated in a stable version and is still unpublished. Based on Eisen's own site, Johns Hopkins, it sits under working papers with no download link. And the new version coming soon. Okay, incredible. Maybe I'll email him, guys. I don't know. He just cites the wage standard, the whole ass book for that claim, though, and it's conceivable that depending on the measure of income you use, it's obviously not going to meet workers' marginal product because there's cost involved in searching for workers and training for workers, and that's not going to be included in some of those measures. But,
An opportunity. There is one episode in season 24 where Burns releases the hounds on a group of economists with percentages on their back to randomly select a rate hike, and it comes out at 17%, a hike which has an immediate negative impact on the town. So price gouging does feature every so often, and it was actually mentioned by John.
The Japanese used to be fearfully superstitious and avoid traveling in certain cardinal directions.
But ultimately, much of Burns' objectionable behaviour occurs through mechanisms other than overcharging people.
Very well, it's time for your bribe. Now, you can either have the washer and dryer where the lovely Smithers is standing, or you can trade it all in for what's in this box.
His monopoly gives him control over the industry and over...
Oh boy. One second, easy money. We're not reading the whole things or anything. I just want to demonstrate this. The 1986 tax reform fucked up the CBO's measure of inequality, and it fucked up a lot of the estimates for the labor share of income, because a lot of things that previously would have been reported as the labor share essentially got shifted to being reported as the capital share because of how pass-through income works. By lowering individual income tax rates and increasing corporate tax burdens, the Tax Reform Act of 1986 made the S corporation a better deal, and a growing share of business owners have given that income the name profit. We add these recharacterized wages back into the labor income bucket, then add corporate labor share in 2017 is about 0.9 percentage points higher. In addition, many firms have left the corporate sector and reorganized as partnerships. And then there's another thing here I think about. Non-wage compensation. On the growing role of stock-based compensation for workers at public companies, when public companies pay their workers in stock, these payments don't generally show up as labor compensation. The rise in stock-based pay is big enough to be relevant for the accurate labor share. So, you gotta account for that. Why do you want me to watch this? When is it 3 years ago? I probably have like read this or seen this.
Here with my first video. I guess I have a few others. If you look on the YouTube channel, I've got one of me on things.
And it's like mostly. What's up, Patrol? SpaceX Cinema True. Welcome back. It's like mostly almost like a political argument to me, because it's just like you can in theory design a universal program that is equivalent to any means tested programs, but all else equal probably should have lower administrative cost. But it's just a question of like politically, is that capable of like happening? And it's just like mostly a political argument to me. Like,
hey everyone, Matt Brunig here with my first video. I guess I have a few others. If you look on the YouTube channel, I've got one of me on Thanksgiving and one of me.
I've probably seen this.
Also, but this is the first of a different type of video, a serious video, a video in the vein of internet talking head style YouTube video.
This article isn't about admin cost.
So let me know what you think. Tips, tricks, hardware, software. Interested in any kind of advice you might have. For the time being, I'm going to mostly focus.
It's about the phase out of benefits and taxes, but that can just be equivalent under a universal system too. It's about eventually the products become so cheap they are free, like food and homes, and payment for them becomes optional. What are we talking about? Except they do that for a given welfare budget. Targeted programs reduce inequality and poverty more than non-targeted programs. This claim is not true, and seemingly irrefutable math underlying it is based on accounting games. A piece of paper is given to each of them with the following challenge. Design a tax policy that raises exactly $100 billion of revenue, no additional tax required. Design a cash welfare program for kids that costs exactly $100 billion, no additional spending allowed. A tax and welfare policy combination to reduce poverty and inequality most wins. Upon receiving a challenge, the means tested and the universalists begin working on their $100 billion tax policies. Both look at the criteria for winning, reducing poverty and inequality the most, and independently devise the same tax policy that optimally levies $100 billion from the richest people in society. After a few minutes, each reveals their tax policy to the other and have a laugh about the fact they came up with the same thing. Next, the means tester and universalist begin working on the $100 billion welfare program for kids. The universalist, being a universalist, naturally decides to take the $100 billion divided by the number of kids in society and pays out the resulting dollar amount to every kid. Based on universalist math, this is equal to $3,000 per kid. The means tester, being a means tester, takes a different approach. Rather than providing $3,000 to each kid, the means tester decides to provide $6,000 per kid, except that kids living in families earning more than $50,000 per year will receive 5% less than the $6,000 benefit for each dollar they earn beyond $50,000. After a few minutes, each reveals their welfare policy to the other. The means tester starts to smile and states triumphantly that his welfare policy provides twice as much to benefit to the poor and low-income kids as the universalist welfare policy. Since the universalist and means tester have the same tax policy, this difference in welfare policy makes the means tester win the challenge. After seeing the means tester's welfare policy, the universalist immediately begins to revise both of his policies. He adds a second line to his tax policy, 5% surcharge on earnings above. Yo, they could have $50. Let's go.
I tried another debate gang treehouse and this place is more comfy.
Okay, based. Another debate gang treehouse. I'm glad I'm more comfy and I appreciate it. $50. Let's go, brother. Let's go. Hell yeah. 5% surcharge on tax and earnings beyond $50,000 for tax units with children, up to $6,000 of tax per child. He's changed his welfare policy so that $3,000 per kid benefit is increased to $6,000 per kids. Isn't this literally what I was talking about? Yes, you can design a universalist program that's equivalent to any given means tested income. On your revised plan, you're raising $200 billion of tax revenue and spending $200 billion on a $6,000 universal benefit. You're disqualified. In your spending program, parents earn beyond $50,000 income lose 5 cents of the benefit for every dollar they earn before $3,000. That phase out is the exact same thing as by tax. Either both violate the rules. By taxing spending cannot exceed $100 billion, or neither do. No, it's a phase out, not a tax. It's a spending reduction. I taxed and spent $100 billion to provide a means tested $6,000 benefit. You taxed and spent $200 billion to provide a universal $6,000 benefit. Now we both taxed and spent $200 billion to provide a universal $6,000 benefit. It's just like your 5% tax is applied at the point of benefit dispersal, while my 5% tax is applied at the point of paycheck dispersal. Yes, this is my understanding of things. Fuck, I'm gonna relapse tonight and get a pack of smokes. Jones Heads is bad tonight. Changed my mind. Huh? Bro, I'm so bad at the tobacco products at my fucking job. When people ask for them, I know what the hell they're talking about. I've gotten better, but I don't know. I can do the Zins. Okay, the Zins are easy because everyone knows what Zins are. I don't understand what you expect me to say. That stuff.
Corner of a screen and running you through some stuff that I've written, or maybe stuff other people have written, or watching some videos, reacting, who knows. But for the first video, I wanted to start off with my favorite subject of all, which is the subject of universal welfare benefits. So I had a piece, here you see here on November 11th, at People's Policy Project, titled Universal Benefits Cost Less Than Me.
Oh, okay. I was unfamiliar, Patrol.
Here, the biggest controversy is driven by accounting games. Now, the title is a little bit provocative, obviously. If you follow this debate at all, you will be familiar with the basic contours of it, which are that universal benefits cost more than means-tested benefits, but they're supposed to be more politically advantageous, and then people have this fight over and over again. What I want to do with this piece, and what I've been trying to do for years, is to just flip that.
Who wins?
On his head and explain to him.
In what sense?
Oh, it's actually the opposite. The universal benefits cost less.
Do I agree that, like, it is literally the case that you can design a universal program that's equivalent to any given means tester. I agree that it's literally the case, and I agree that it is kind of an accounting game to say otherwise, right? I think after tax income is like what matters, and you can design equivalent programs of that on that front for both means tested and universal programs. And I think it is also just the case that typically universal programs are going to have less administrative cost as compared to universal programs. So just merely that, I agree with.
Less. And I don't mean in some kind of cutesy way, but I mean in a sense of like if you know how to do actual accounting and peer through the kind of bullshit people use in these arguments, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I pegged this piece to a 1998 paper published by Walter Korpi and Joachim Palme. I don't know. Yeah, he's Swedish. In fact, he's the son of Olof Palme, which you will know as the second published a paper titled "The Paradox of Redistribution and Strategies of Equality." Well, I'm supposed to be advertising that I use this possibly illegal service.
Sci-Hub.
But anyways, in their paper, they try to tackle this argument that I mentioned at the top, which is that welfare programs, that if you target welfare programs to people with low market incomes, that reduces inequality more than if you don't target them in that way. Right? So that's the basic idea. It's like, let's say we have a pot of money, and we could either give it out to everyone as benefits to everyone, like we do with public schools, or we could concentrate that pot of money on the very poor. And it seems like if you concentrate the money on the very poor, then that's going to get you more bang for your buck, right? Because you're not wasting it on people who don't need it, right? That's the sort of idea that they're trying to fight. They want to say, no, you're wrong about that argument. But how do they go about arguing that that is an incorrect claim? And the way that they do that is by accepting, this is their fatal error, accepting the basic math of that claim, right? That, yeah, it's more efficient to target the money, just do the math. But then arguing that claim fails to consider the political effects such targeting has on support for increasing the size of the welfare budget. So you can kind of run this in a clean kind of three-pronged argument here, right?
I want to next video provides a great insight on how the most advanced leftists warp language to fit their worldview.
States reduce inequality and poverty more.
Okay.
Target welfare states.
I really was a little harsh, man. I don't know what is the warping of language he is doing here at all. I feel like if anything, it's the other side of the debate that like warps the language.
States to be small, then 3, targeting is actually worse for inequality.
And that they like, it's just, I don't want to say like have a different view of like what it means to spend or whatever, but like just aren't focusing on the after tax change in income. They just are focusing on separately like the amount of spending outright the government does as opposed to, the after tax change in income.
Poverty than not targeting. And they go on to do a bunch of cross-country regressions to try to show that this seems to be true. And it's a kind of bank shot move here to say that, yeah, on paper it looks like if you target the money, it's better. But the second order effect of targeting is political support for the welfare state gets to be so low that you can't build out a robust welfare state. You'd rather have a big, robust welfare state than a small targeted one, and off you go, right? That's the move that they go into. Now, this paper, I mean, this has basically set the agenda on the left for arguments for universal benefits for 20 years now. And I mean, there have been dozens and dozens of papers arguing it's true and false. And it's just kind of become a staple argument for all social democrats, all people who support universal programs. And that's fine. I think the intuition underlying the paper, which is that we want to build solidarity in the welfare state, and that does require not being super targeted, I think that is a reasonable political judgment. Now, whether you can prove that through cross-country regressions, that I'm a little bit less certain of, but I think it makes intuitive sense. However,
it's true.
I think they make a mistake when they accept the idea that targeted benefits are actually more efficient. When they accept the idea that, yeah, if you had a set pot of money, that it would be better to target it to the poor, and that actually gets you more bang for the buck. I think that is wrong, provably wrong, and that they have bought into accounting mistakes, accounting gimmicks that I can very clearly show are just accounting gimmicks. Okay, so I do this in this piece by using this kind of Socratic dialogue, if you will, between two individuals who are set down, two policy wonks. You set them down at a table. One of them is a universalist. They want universal programs. The other one is a means tester. And you set them down at a table and you say, I got a competition for you guys.
Yeah, I'm throwing it away.
Design a tax policy that raises $100 billion of revenue, and then design a cash welfare program for kids that costs exactly $100 billion. You can't tax more. You can't spend more. Well, whoever comes up with the best combo that reduces poverty and inequality the most wins the competition. Right, so that's the little game that we've set up to illustrate this point. And I talk about cash welfare programs for kids here only because that's a major topic right now in the U.S., obviously, for the last couple of years. So, but it could be anything else. It could be old age pensions. It could be disability benefits. I mean, it doesn't really matter what example you use, but that's the one I'm choosing. Okay, so they get this challenge, and the very first thing they do is they work on their tax policy. Now, on the tax side of things, if you're trying to reduce poverty and inequality the most just on the tax side, then what you're going to do is just figure out who can I get $100 billion from, like starting from the richest person in society and like walk my way down. What's the most optimal way to get $100 billion that way? And you design your tax policy that way. In this piece, I assume that they end up scribbling their tax policies on a piece of paper, flip them over, and then they lo and behold, they came up with the same thing. All right, great. So that.
Okay, I don't know. We read this. I don't know what you want from me. Oh, we're not watching this whole video or anything, but also besides like Lena Khan's thing.
its birth in 1997, Bezos' vision of a complete library has basically been fulfilled. In her influential article Amazon's Antitrust Paradox, a direct rebuttal of Bork's earlier article, legal expert Lena M. Khan summarized Amazon's growth strategy by saying, "It is as if Bezos charted the company's growth by first drawing a map of antitrust laws and then devising routes to smoothly bypass them." After expanding quickly in the early 2000s, Amazon started selling electronics, toys, and tools. These days, it sells almost any product you can think of and manufactures plenty of them too, including publishing books itself. And that's not to mention its streaming service, credit lending facilities, marketing divisions, and unparalleled delivery and logistics network. An illustrative example of the grip Amazon has on the market comes from the now defunct website diapers.com, which was growing fast as a provider of baby care in 2008. Amazon offered to buy the corporation Quidsy, which owned diapers, alongside other websites focused on household essentials. When Quidsy declined, Amazon created algorithms that would follow the products on diapers.com and automatically cut prices below theirs, up to 30% lower in some cases. They also launched Amazon Mum, offering discounts for repeated purchases and free Prime membership. Quidsy eventually relented to the pressure this placed on them and accepted a bid to buy them from Amazon, who promptly raised prices again and all but ended the Amazon Mum scheme. Quidsy itself was eventually closed too. This is exactly the kind of thing the Chicago school insisted would almost never happen. They are...
Well, but I just think like most of the stuff that Liederkranz cites, and he by nature citing her is like also citing and stuff or whatever, is like not that true. Even I think even the diapers.com stuff is in here. Below cost pricing in retail, also known as loss leader pricing. Okay, so maybe Amazon isn't using below cost pricing in aggregate in the retail division, but it still could be using profits from some retail products to cross-subsidize below cost pricing for other retail products, e.g. diapers, with the intention of driving competitors out of business to capture monopoly profits. This is essentially what Khan claims happened in the diapers.com case. But in the retail industry, diapers are explicitly cited as a loss leader that helps retailers develop a customer relationship with mothers in the hopes of selling them a higher volume of products over time. That's exactly what the founder of diapers.com told Incorporated magazine in a 2012 interview. Emphasis added, "We saw brick and mortar stores to Walmart and Target of the world using these products to build relationships with moms and the end consumer, bringing them into the store and selling them everything else. So we thought that was an interesting model and maybe we could replicate that online. And so we started selling the loss leader product to basically build a relationship with mom. And once they had a passion for the brand and they were shopping with us on a weekly and monthly basis, that they'd start to fall in love with that brand. We were losing money in every box of diapers that we sold. We weren't able to buy direct from the manufacturers. An anti-competitive scheme could be built into such a bundling, but in many, if not the overwhelming majority of these cases, consumers are the beneficiaries of lower prices and expanded output produced by these arrangements. It's hard to definitively say whether any given firm discounts its products is actually pricing below average variable cost without far more granular accounting ledgers than are typically maintained. This is part of the reason why these cases can be so hard to prove. A successful predatory pricing strategy also requires blocking market entry when the predator eventually raises prices, but diapers.com is an explicit example of repeated entry that would defeat recoupment. In an article for the American Enterprise Institute, Jeffrey Eisenach shares the rest of the following story of Amazon's acquisitions of diaper.com. Amazon's conduct did not result in a diaper retailing monopoly. Far from it. According to Khan, Amazon had about 43% of online sales in 2016, compared with Walmart at 23% and Target at 18%. And since many people still buy diapers at a grocery store, real shares are far lower. In the end, Quidsy proved to be a bad investment for Amazon. After spending $545 million to buy the firm and operating it as a standalone business for more than 6 years, it announced in 2017 it was shutting down all of Quidsy's operations, diapers.com included. In the meantime, Quidsy's founders poured the proceedings of Amazon of the Amazon sale into a new online retailer, Jet.com, which was purchased by Walmart in 2016 for $3.3 billion. Jet.com founder Mark Lore now runs Walmart's e-commerce operations and has said publicly that its goal is to surpass Amazon as the top online retailer. But he just was like, well, who's going to compete with Amazon?
Argued that so-called predatory pricing was basically irrational. By cutting prices to keep out a competitor, the incumbent just bleeds money. The moment it raises prices to make the losses back, fresh competitors just pile back in. Now, to be fair, they did have a few valid examples of courts blocking harmless mergers and activity in the 1960s, but it's safe to say things went way too far in the other direction, as predatory pricing was deemed impossible. Obviously, Amazon did undercut Quidsy and has not had to worry about fresh competitors because, well, who's going to compete with Amazon? They sent a clear message.
Was like, your mom and pop store might not compete with Amazon that directly on diapers, but I don't know, other Walmart, Target, these are all places that compete fairly. Costco even competes fairly well with Amazon. thoughts on Krugman's healthcare article? I didn't read it. It seems silly, but I've not read it.
About my cube?
Potential
I'm broadly familiar with many of the points made within it because he's written about it before, and some of the things I could understand a bit of, but like I think it's largely just like silly. Because it's a little silly to say like, oh, you know, by nature of giving a tax subsidy or, you know, tax deduction for employers providing health insurance plans to their employees, that should be counted as like a public contribution to health insurance. And that means we're already under a mostly public system. It's like, okay, that's a little silly to count that as like really a public contribution. And the type of public system that you / many lefty people want to move to is not like government subsidies for private insurance companies. And so it's like a publicly administered insurance companies, or maybe even publicly owned providers themselves, right? And we might have reasons for thinking that's a little worse than just having the subsidies the ACA gave.
competition is acquired or pushed out of business, so that Amazon remains dominant in every market, from books to diapers to toy figurines. Many companies that attempt to compete with Amazon, for instance by selling toys online, may at some point have to use some of their facilities, relying on them for credit or advertising or to ship their goods. Early Amazon employees recognized that Bezos' underlying goals were not to create an online bookstore or an online retailer, but rather a utility that would become essential to commerce. Bezos' idea of a utility is especially instructive in this regard, since utilities are typically thought to be too important to allow unfettered private control over them. There's a reason that Mr. Burns chose an industry
Too important.
energy. Amazon may have kept prices down and offered consumers a wide variety of products, in line with what modern antitrust laws require. Yet the original
Typically, the justification for like regulations on utilities is just that they're natural monopolies. Too important. It's just a weird, I don't know, it's just a weird way of putting it.
Sherman antitrust laws were designed at a time when rail and oil barons had created remarkable infrastructure too.
But yeah, like I said, we're not watching all this. Maybe we can watch more of it at some point. Oh, he cites Zuckman numbers on inequality, which is, kill me.
And people are at $1,100 million net worth. That's just growth rather than an actual rise in inequality. Street made the 1% and the 99% fame from 1989 to today. The top 0.1% though have increased their share of wealth by just under 60%, a much higher increase. It doesn't stop.
Whoa.
According to economist Gabriel Zuckman, the global top 0.0001%, which roughly corresponds to billionaires, more than quadrupled their share of global GDP. And even at the very, very top, the wealth of the top 10 richest men in the world more than doubled just during the pandemic. On the Forbes rich list, Elon Musk's roughly $1 trillion wealth is
Thank you, Zuckman.
4 times that of the next on the list, Larry Page of Google, at the time of recording.
Wow.
I'd trade it all for a little more.
It's also just a little silly to compare it to GDP, because GDP is just like a flow and wealth is stock, and it's a little weird to compare the aggregate income in one period to someone's total wealth. It's just not very fair or a meaningful comparison, but whatever. Whatever.
Or they just go to the meetings for fun because their friends go. And it's the only place where there's organizing happening where it's going to be younger people. Now, Democrats can either say the DSA is a cancer and all this crazy stuff about it, or they can try to compete with DSA where they are very effective. And my question is largely, and I wish we had someone involved in like direct DSA. I don't know much about what DSA does to know if there's anything they do in particular that can replicate that. If that's just going to be where all the college age people go naturally, if many of them do that, it's really difficult to find that balance. I feel like we can defeat the DSA rather easily. I genuinely, and I know people say I'm a secret DSA agent. I think people saying that about me is honestly part of the brain rot. The Hassan derangement syndrome happening online. If you think I'm not going to be your ally in your movement, then you're going to fall into.
Why shouldn't the DSA members run?
And I wouldn't, as far as I know, Jola he's not that. I think he's still, I'm pretty sure he still self-describes as a capitalist or whatever, but he is, from my understanding, I think I've spoken to him once in his server like a while ago. He is like a pretty progressive dude. Both socially and economically. Like he's pretty got some cringe ideas there from what I remember.
Is their own party? Why shouldn't they just run
they
under
should.
the DSA?
They can. Yeah, they should. Well, my big thing too, as well with like Francesca Hong, who are you if you're going to say we're against MAGA? Who are you to say Wisconsin Democratic primary voters are wrong? Who are you to say that Maine
Density doesn't have good critique of socialism. Is that you finally admitting that a Connor boy won the debate?
Democratic primary voters are wrong when they want more populist candidate. Are you saying that the will of the Democratic voters of Maine and Wisconsin just don't matter now because they supported a DSA candidate?
It's not that they don't matter. It's that I have issues with the voting populace if they elect someone who is bad for democracy. I have issues with the voting populace.
Real
Trump,
base.
right?
Okay, if you don't like the voters, you can say that.
Are you just against the will of the people now because you oppose Trump because Trump got the popular vote? You should be okay with the will of the people. No. What is this argument? Sorry.
Well, he did become president, and Trump should have become president because people did vote for him. I would prefer they don't do that. But we're talking about our fellow Democrats, our fellow No Kings protesters. If they look in
If you're
Wisconsin,
voting
for
for
example,
Plattner or Hong, you're not my fellow Democrat.
Doesn't anyways never fit to debate a Connor boy in the first place. King of the Coast. Good. Hey, a Connor boy tried to debate King of the Coast. It was King of the Coast who ran.
and Hong,
And then never even published his article that he wrote about sovereign wealth funds. Unbelievable.
Hong case, there's like 10 other candidates in the race. The one that was competing with Hong had some type of like financial disclosure issues because a dumb intern like double or triple reported every donation they were getting. They were saying there were ad expenditures that were not even real. So she had to drop out. And the person who they have running against Hong now, he said that he joined back into the race after he failed his campaign because he got a message from God in the form of a red bird that his wife saw. And because she saw this red bird, he knew it was his time to
Probability of theism increased, guys.
run. And he's
Theism being true.
Less
saying,
crazy,
hey guys, you can't really do anything. I'll be
abolishing
honest.
the police.
I mean,
it's less crazy than abolishing police. I've seen some of Crowley, the gentleman who is the direct competitor with Hong now. I've seen some of his takes. He has good, solid, one of the best takes on data centers that I have seen, right? Everyone, all these sloppulists now are like, we need a moratorium on data centers. This guy
True.
comes out and he's like, well,
Okay, I agree with what Wick is saying, but I don't actually think that's that responsive to what Joel has said.
for the Hong case, there's like 10 other candidates in the race. The one that was competing with Hong had some type of like financial disclosure issues because a dumb intern like double or triple reported every donation. Well, he did become president, and Trump should have become president because people did vote for him. I would prefer they don't do that. But we're talking about our fellow Democrats, our fellow No Kings protesters. If they look in
if you're
Wisconsin,
voting
for
for
example,
Plattner or Hong, you're not my fellow Democrat.
Like he's just saying, like he's just advising moderates to like run better candidates. Basically,
Hong
is his point, right?
Case, there's
Like he's just critiquing the candidates that the moderates had for like fucking up and being silly and being bad.
10 other candidates in the race. The one that was competing with Hong had some type of like financial disclosure issues because a dumb intern like double because she's
I've seen them good, solid, one of the best takes on data centers. Well, no moratorium. We could regulate them and maybe address some of the issues with the environment. Anti-data centers is a lot like being anti-nuclear in today's vernacular. It's going to make us poorer, weaker, and less able to compete in the real world.
Yeah, it's a
Crowley is a
stupid
good candidate. Crowley is the union candidate. Crowley is someone we should be supporting. Hong is a crazy person.
We're talking about
Union candidate. I don't know, guys. That seems pretty cringe. Don't know if I can endorse.
politics. But we're talking about politics here. You can say F the voters, screw the voters. Okay, you can keep on saying screw the voters, we hate the voters. But politically, we need political influence to stop the rise of sloppyism and MAGA. So if you want to say the Democratic voters are dumb, then I don't know what I can tell you at that point.
The DSA, what were you saying? No, never mind. I was just going to say, the DSA members are the sloppulists.
Okay, then beat them. Why are Democratic candidates?
We are.
So there's two, well,
why
they
is she
are.
winning?
So
Why do
they
you
are.
think?
Two things can be true. One, Democrats can be running bad candidates, and the DSA can be bad. That's what's happening here. In Wisconsin,
Yeah,
the Democrats seem to not be running good candidates. It seems like Hong is probably going to win. And sadly, the Democrats are probably going to lose Wisconsin over it.
Yeah, and I think that's a tragedy that the moderate wing of the party could not find anybody to run. It's a good candidate.
This wild, and you've done this a lot. Every time something happens that is bad, it's always the establishment's fault, right?
I said nothing about the establishment. I
Was
said
the
they were losing.
establishment's fault,
I said
right?
they were losing
Hong
to
doing
DSA.
well,
That is correct,
it's
right?
establishment.
Okay, I don't understand what they're what are they even fighting about? I don't get it.
We're talking about politics here. You can say F the voters, screw the voters. So
They are. Two things can be true. One, Democrats can be running bad candidates, and the DSA can be bad. That's what's happening.
So they just jumped from
F the voters, screw the voters. Okay, you can keep on saying screw.
Hong is a
Again,
crazy person.
We're talking
Two
about
things can be true.
politics. But we're talking about politics here. You can say F the voters, screw the voters. Okay, you can keep on saying screw the voters, we hate the voters. But politically, we need political influence to stop the rise of sloppyism and MAGA. So if you want to say the Democratic voters are dumb, then I don't know what I can tell you at that point.
The DSA,
what were you saying?
No, never mind. I was just going to say, the DSA members are the sloppulists.
Okay, then beat.
Joel is just saying, like you can have disagreements with voters and everything. I have disagreements with voters, but like you have to run candidates that like appeal to them and such or whatever. And moderates are just like not doing that right now. But now
Politics. Here's the.
Mooten is just saying, but the DSA are also have bad candidates and they're doing sloppyism. But
We're talking about politics here. You can say F the voters, MAGA. So
The members are the sloppulists.
okay,
I don't think Joel ever disputed that really.
why are Democratic candidates?
We are.
So
not
there's
being-
two, well,
why
they
is she
are.
winning?
So
Why do
they
you
are.
think?
Two things can be true. One, Democrats can be running bad candidates, and the DSA.
But and then now they just say they are beating them. So then why? So then what's the issue that we're here to talk about? What are we doing here?
In Wisconsin,
Yeah,
Democrats seem to not be running good candidates. It seems like Hong is probably going to win. And sadly, the Democrats.
This wild, and you've done this a lot. Every time something happens that is bad, it's always the establishment's fault, right?
I said nothing about the establishment. I
Was
said
the
they were losing.
establishment's fault,
I said
right?
they were losing
Hong
to
doing
DSA.
well,
That is correct,
it's
right?
establishment's fault. Sometimes it's okay to acknowledge that there are bad
are
actors
stupid.
on the other side who are capable of being of having agency, and their agency is lying to the public and pushing bad candidates that convince the voting class, right? Convince
Hong's
the
not a good liar, man. She's not a good liar. She's really bad at it, to be honest. She can't answer a question about Thanksgiving. She's like, I love Thanksgiving because I'm a cook, and I'm going to use that to bring people around the table.
I'm non-funning it right now. What's up, Comes to K?
There are bad
Okay, I do think that
You're losing
Hong
to
doing
DSA.
well.
it is fair to be concerned about the more general tolerance to lying and sloppiness policies and such that DSA people are encouraging.
That is correct,
It's
right?
establishment's fault. Sometimes it's okay to acknowledge that there are
But
bad
they're
actors
stupid.
on the other side who are capable of being of having agency, and their
But I think Jolo does acknowledge that those people exist and he doesn't like them. But I think he's much more in favor of obviously the lefty policies that I would be opposed to.
agency is lying to the public and pushing
Slopulism might end us. Probably will.
bad candidates
American century of slopulism.
that convince the voting class, right? Convince
Hong's
the
not a
voting
good liar, man. She's not a good liar. She's really bad at it, to be honest. She can't answer a question about Thanksgiving. She's like, I love Thanksgiving because I'm a cook, and I'm going to use that to bring people around the table. She's a terrible candidate. My question again is, why are there no moderate and by the way, the polls can be off by 25 points, and I will be happy, to be honest. I don't want Hong to run. I think she's a disaster. But my question again is, why can we not have any accountability for Democrats who are losing to these types of candidates? Like, we have to have some.
What do you mean no accountability? I mean, I think we are having accountability. They're going to lose. That's the accountability.
Yeah, but from liberal commentators, like myself, for example, I cannot stand what's her name, Cory Bush. She lost by like 50 points to her opponent, Wesley Bell, and then called him a Republican. I'm extremely critical of her. She lost by 50 points, and she called him a Republican, which is not true.
That's
Now,
bad.
yeah, that's really bad. But why is there no heat? I don't see any coverage from center commentators about the primaries on who is going to be the up and coming candidate, or why are we putting forward these terrible candidates like Janet Mills? Why was Mandela Barnes not supported from the start?
I
Why
feel
was
like
Brad
you're
Ryder
missing
not
that because
supported? Why was
we've
Mallory
talked
McMorrow
about-
not supported? We had Mallory McMorrow right there. She was above. She was by far the favorite for Michigan. Mallory McMorrow. And guess what happened? All the progressive money went to El Sayed, and then all the establishment money went to Haley Stevens. That's why McMorrow ended up tanking. She was by far the favorite. If the
The
establishment
reason
would
McMorrow
have
ended up
compromised
tanking-
for McMorrow, she
Oh,
probably
just real
would have
quick. The reason McMorrow ended up tanking is he tried to thread the needle, and she ended up being lukewarm. She was neither hot nor cold, so the voters spit her out of their mouth, right? She decided to play a balance.
I have no clue, Kill. I have no clue the specifics of the race up until more recently. I don't know.
And played with those voters, and no one bought it. If you were an established someone who liked the establishment, who liked the old school Democrats, you went with Stevens. And if
Just
you
like me, for real.
one who was more progressive leaning, you went towards the more progressive candidate which was El Sayed. So that's why she lost, right? Like this idea that Stevens was a bad candidate, all the fundamentals were against her, and she lost by less than a percentage point, right? Like you had the entire left
I said hi to Mallory McMorrow once, lol, based. Did she say hi back?
wing come out.
She's single?
Oh,
She's not single,
campaigning
right?
for her, come out promoting her, come out really pushing her.
Lying
Wait,
about her.
all the fundamentals were against her. She had every single. She had Whitmer. She had Cargill coming in. She had.
No way she's single. Wait, she said hi to you. Whoa. Yeah, spouse. Since 2017. I figured. Damn. Why do I care about this? Everybody talk about ideas and intensely. Yeah, I agree. I don't know, but everyone. That's why we're not watching all this. I said we're gonna watch 10 minutes. We probably have watched more than 10 minutes so far, but I don't get it. I don't get it. Kill me.
Just pushing El Sayed in his primary and things like that. You have a populist wave where the establishment is seen as really bad in the Michigan area, and he still wasn't able to put up.
But like, you can't. You want to see the people like talking about ideas right now, bro? It's like fucking. Give me a second here.
Is dialectical materialism. So it's just
Friend of the stream, random
Syntax.
random guy
Shit, what's the word?
that was on the Santana panel.
semantics.
Shit. Kind of, yeah.
I reached out to this guy, but he didn't reply, and he only does like 5-minute debate things, and I just don't care to do that. Debate now, it's good. I think he only gives people like 5 minutes, and it just like sucks. And he's also mostly interested in the politics of it.
Okay. And evolve over time. And not only that, but like, let's talk about the fact that the Constitution does not explicitly state that we need to have a capitalist mode of production. And nowhere in the Constitution does it explain what economic mode of production we are supposed to have, so that the whole idea that we couldn't become a socialist state is just fucking
They're not
stupid.
supposed to, it says we're supposed to be on a gold standard.
If the people want it, the people will get it. It has nothing to do with the Constitution says. Constitution doesn't say shit about the economic mode of production. It doesn't. Never has. Never.
I mean, it has the takings clause, right? So if 8 viewers are requesting anything, it'll take a while. Probably. I don't know.
Oh, totally. Seattle. It's currently an oligarchy for sure.
True.
Capitalism is by far the best system. No, it's not. Capitalism has a great golden year, but we're past those golden years, and now we're living in late stage crony capitalism.
True. The golden years were when taxes were 90%.
This thing called the 1%. It's pretty good for them. Everybody else, it's pretty bad.
True. By the way, I should be getting a phone tomorrow that I can use for TikTok stuff, that I can connect my actual microphone to. Basically, I got a fancy cable, but I got a cable that I think can do what I need to do and have it go through my audio interface and into my phone as an input. Hopefully, I'm hoping. It's Charsky is you're repping for me in the chat. Let's go.
No, I don't want to co-host. What is this? The people demand. Unfortunately, true. Unfortunately, I'm actually getting off. Like I said, I was just doing like a 1 hour. I usually do these things in the morning from 10 to 12.
True.
The DSA all rich. The DSA is not all rich. The DSA is, most of our local chapters are a lot of not rich people. The fact you think the DSA is rich is fucking hilarious. I just don't trust our government to responsibly handle socialism. Well, that's why we believe in socialism through reform, for that exact reason. You got to follow them the whole way through. You just can't give all the money. You can't just give all the power to the state. That's
what's up to Trib. The live war ends when a left puts down their weapons. True. He's running. True. Welcome back. I think it's benefit the trip.
Monday through Friday, best time to get a hold of me. That's usually where I am. I'm usually
out
here during the
Why
day.
TikTok people like this?
That's where you'll find me most days.
They will never agree to just like a convo over Discord or whatever. But yeah, I DM'd him on July 14th. And he never replied. He might have just not checked requests ever or whatever. So it's not like he's running necessarily, but I said, I caught some of your live earlier and was wondering if you would be willing to set up a discussion with me that's longer than 5 minutes, LOL. Because when I watched him, he was only giving people 5 minutes. I'm a political streamer, consider myself a neoliberal / establishment Democrat. I'd be interested in discussing your view of why people are voting Democratic Socialists, as well as the merits of socialist policies. You can get a feel for who I am by checking out my YouTube channel. Let me know if you're interested. Thanks. But, I saw someone say something about tax rates. And I think it triggered me. 13% tax rate corporations. Yeah, it's 50% in the 1950s. Capitalism has run its course. True.
I am going to call it an evening. Let me go ahead and...
Wow, can you believe this guy?
It's at down here. Please put Swan's at down here. I would greatly appreciate it if you did. There we go. Thank you, Nafi. W Nafi's in the chat. WR Wall Painter General in the chat.
True.
I appreciate y'all so much. We're gonna end it here. We're gonna end it here. I love y'all. Stay dangerous out here. Don't stay safe. Stay.
Oh my god, they're running. They're all scared of non-fawn. Incredible. First prompt, little DSA politicians will support DSA. So many people on the left, so many people on the DSA say, well, that's not what I really stand for. I have a local chapter. It's like, yeah, I know. there's a lot of infighting within the DSA too. It's funny. I wonder if the infighting within the DSA, if the fighting between the liberals and the DSA has surpassed the amount of infighting within the DSA. Can we get a measure on this? Can we get a paper on this? Couldn't the government just define compensation as the market value of assets? Yeah, but I think like within reason, it's probably the best interpretation to think that the takings clause would not permit the literal expropriation. I say expropriation, but I think expropriation implies that you don't get just compensation, but expropriation of like every asset. I think that's probably the most reasonable interpretations. Or be deprived of life, liberty, property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Just like they could, I don't know. What do you say? Or like they could, the Supreme Court could rule just compensation just means a single dollar in all cases, and that is what is just or whatever. But like that's clearly not a reasonable interpretation. I think the idea that it's like the market value or whatever is probably is much more reasonable, but I think probably best understood as not implying that the government could nationalize all assets, even if they pay technically market value for them. Like this. This single reply to me, Erudite has officially defended Pisco. More than Pisco has defended Hutch from being called a racist pedophile, Epstein supporting a genocidal sex cultist Nazi. If Pisco doesn't want to be included with the people propagating this rhetoric against Hutch, or perhaps Erudite, or perhaps that Erudite is Ghislaine Maxwell, should ask himself why they feel so comfortable in this space. It's because he never criticizes leftists or snarkers. Jesus. Bro, what is going on? Okay. When will Pisco continue the conversation with me, bro? Man, for
hyperly packed conservative court.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm concerned about the policy thing. I don't follow. It could be the case that maybe I find the justices, the points they make like sufficient in some cases, but like I have enough concerns about the policy things. Like he had some weird plan for the Federal Reserve to put farmers and consumers on it, and they're obviously not qualified. I'm concerned about the single payer healthcare. I don't think it's preferable, and I think if the U.S. were to do it, it would have a meaningful impact on.
When was this? 6 months ago, January 13th of 2026 this year. But I might have uploaded it the day after, but I think it was probably the day of it or the day after.
Pharmaceutical innovation and like in terms of just like, you know, added life years lost, that those effects can actually be fairly big. And I think some of his labor market policies too. Like I think a big reason, what I say, I think the studies that I've seen suggest that like a big reason why the U.S. has a lot more like tech innovation, for example, than Europe is because it's a lot easier to fire workers here. It's a lot easier to lay people off, and I'd be worried about losing that under the Bernie Sanders presidency.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that labor being weak in America is what leads to innovations in our country. We had a lot of great innovations, even like books like Abundance recognize this, with government investment and public-private partnerships, at a time when labor was stronger.
This is like, I feel like even recently I hear Pisco talking like causal terms or whatever, that I feel like he should recognize like the mistake there. Like, it's not incompatible with the idea that like rigid labor markets restrict innovation or make innovation harder, that we also had a period of high growth and we also had stronger unions. he has lawyer brain. But like I hear him, I think I even heard him say the word endogeneity. I could be misremembering. I'm pretty sure I was listening to his fucking stream, and I heard him say with regards to some metric of like DSA politicians winning or something, like there's an endogeneity issue there. And I don't know, maybe he'd like recognize the stuff here or whatever.
There were all sorts of rapid economic development and growth in this country. Labor has been getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker over the course of the last decades. Republicans have been targeting them.
And I think like that, like labor is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. It's not, depending on what you mean, it's a little, I think it could be interpreted as just like union density like has declined, which is like true, but the cause of union density declining is not necessarily because just like regulations and such or whatever, because Reagan fired all the Patco workers and all those memes. It's also just because the industries have shifted. There's just a lot more unions in like manufacturing industries as opposed to service sector industries. And it's not necessarily because the regulations are different. It's just kind of by nature of the type of work they do and stuff. That means unions are just less likely to be in service sector jobs. And because we shift to workers, isn't it just a shift to services? Yeah, I like there's papers on it, and I don't have the papers like directly on hand or whatever. So I'm not gonna take out a strong position on whether it is just a shift to services or primarily just a shift to services. But you know, I was happy when Reagan did that. I wasn't alive. Well, you know, if he hadn't had fired the Patco workers, probably the events of the world would have been affected in such a way that, you know, you would not have been born. So, you know, gotta think Reagan. This is what JD Vance talks about in his new book. Really?
With state laws and federal laws have been weakened as well. I'm not convinced that we are better off as a result. I thought that Biden's policies supporting labor made sense and were good on single payer healthcare. I'm not convinced that our current status quo for healthcare and health insurance makes sense. I
wouldn't say our status quo makes sense, whatever that means. Our status quo is not optimal, but it could still be preferable to single payer healthcare. And I think many of the problems are the result of regulations and such. Although there were some that are not good still. JD says restrict immigration so we can get more labor unions. Oh, yeah, I saw this. Yeah. At the time, rightists are saying you need to restrict immigration to protect capitalism. Here's Vance saying we have too much capitalism and we need to restrict immigration to get more statism. One of the jobs of a very Christian statesman, it's a very social cohesion that makes charity and generosity possible. Yeah, it's all man. For these economic questions, plead too easily into the migration issue. Too much immigration destroys the social cohesion necessary to form labor unions. Alex Naras, an analyst at the Cato Institute, a free market think tank, has argued the decline in American labor unions is traceable directly to relaxation of immigration restrictions in the 1960s. Narasa thinks this is a good thing because he doesn't like the idea of giving workers bargaining power over massive corporations. True. That is Naras's argument. For those of us who disagree, Christians inadvertently serve Preconia's master when they sign up for large-scale immigration. Oh my God, Christian statesman. The whole book is about that stuff because because communion, my return to faith or whatever. It's all that stuff, bro. No, that's a steel man.
It would probably,
I know.
All else equal, be more in favor.
No, this Narasa guy seems really mean to workers. Least persuasive Alex article on immigration. It's also just like, I understand JD Vance might not care about it, but at the very least here, you're not really giving the immigrants more bargaining power over corporations, but you're giving the immigrants like more options for employers and like, I don't know, that's probably good. Like, that's probably good. I don't know. Whatever.
Of a public option. And to the extent that he goes too far.
The whores and nurses will be even worse if we ever get single payer healthcare. 4 out of every 3 jobs will be nurse based.
I think he would have to, just like Obama had to do, find consensus with more conservative Democrats, and he doesn't have the ability and will be reined in by more institutional courts. So to the extent that there are massive economic implications to what his policies would do, I believe he would be moderated in a way that Trump is not moderated.
I agree with that, to be clear.
And I'm gonna say the same thing as like Navon 6 months ago. I mostly agree with the fact that Bernie and AOC and a lot of progressive people will be moderated in a way that Trump wouldn't, and I think they're just more likely to. I don't view them as like a first order threat to the republic that I think Trump kind of is. So
clear. That's why,
Navon 6 months ago is so powerful.
Romney was a hypothetical there. I vote for Bernie over Trump any day, to be clear.
But isn't the court enough? Like Romney would like fucking give us more originalist conservative judges.
Good policies matter most. A diverse population reduces social solidarity, which is good for economic growth because people don't want wealth destroying policies to help out people who look different based.
Who suck and who have partially led to the decline of our constitution. And like, for me, SCOTUS is enough. Even beyond that, he would improve our public social insurance. Maybe he would try to do single payer, but very unlikely he would actually achieve that. On policy, do you really support Romney more than Bernie?
So I'm not, Romney's a bit before my time, honestly. So my understanding is Romney has a reputation of being,
I don't know why I got laughed at for this.
Like moderate Republican type dude, like he supported Obamacare to some extent, right? Like that's my understanding of Romney's reputation. So I think there are going to be areas where I am aligned with him, aligned with
in a Rasta tweet based.
Romney supports like tax cuts, which I think in the current
based true
context have been disastrous. Romney supports.
I don't know if he when was this? January 13th. Romney tax the rich like me. No, this was a little bit beforehand. I think this is he actually supports tax hikes to some degree in this article.
Supports socially conservative.
No, he didn't. What? Romney didn't support Obamacare. Romneycare was bad as well. It's my understanding he did not at the time. So the allegation, like I've heard, and I don't know precisely how true this is, to be clear, is that a lot of left-leaning people say Obamacare was just Romney's healthcare plan. It was just Romneycare. So my understanding is that in Massachusetts, Romneycare was relatively similar to Obamacare. So me saying he supported Obamacare to some degree, probably that was not the best phrasing of that or whatever. But he, to my understanding at the time of his presidential campaign, did not support Obamacare. Romneycare in Massachusetts was, to my understanding, based on the allegations I've heard that I've not looked into, similar to Obamacare in many ways.
Policies. Romney supports, he's like a neocon. Romney has, he in all senses, I think would weaken our social insurance system. He would try to cut Medicaid. He would try to put in more work requirements for programs that a lot of people rely on in this country. And in general, I think that he would be beholden to the people, who are.
Romney was pretty bad at immigration and worse on climate. Yeah, I don't think we talked about that in here, but I don't know what his immigration policy was. That might be, I don't know, it might be decisive.
Everything wrong with this country and who tried.
Although Bernie was at one point anti-immigrant, but he's not really, that hasn't been that for a while. So
try to extract rents from the American people. I don't think that Romney is like a good guy other than his stand on certain constitutional issues on January 6th on Trump corruption. But I don't think that just because he stood on that and is moderate with respect to Trumpism.
Now I respect all religions, but it might get crazy if the White House has a first, second, and a third lady.
That we should consider him a moderate with respect to policy.
Sure. So I guess I'll say I think the Supreme Court things like that could be sufficient, at least in the context of an executive branch that is actively trying to get rid of every norm that exists. So I'll concede that that could totally be sufficient. I could see that argument for sure. I guess on the tax cuts is always going to be weird for me because I think I would support raising taxes just as a percent of GDP. But I want to do that as efficiently as possible. I have issues with even the current Democratic strategy of doing that. And I have even more issues with Bernie's strategy of doing things like wealth taxes, which I think, to be clear, I don't think it would be disastrous.
Romney's immigration policy was self-deportation
would fall.
Oh, is that where that meme came from?
But I think would just be on net bad. Yeah.
I hear you on that. I just think that first of all, anything horrible that Bernie tried to do, even from 2012 perspective, and certainly onward, like if he tried to implement
there was no such thing as racism. True. Is this from Wikipedia? Romney's immigration policy focuses on strict enforcement against illegal entry, promoting legal immigration for high-skilled workers and agricultural needs, and encouraging handout to the farmers. Handout to the farmers. That's what I'm getting. Bad. Horrible. We should have immigration, open borders for everyone but farmers. And encouraging self-deportation and making it more difficult for undocumented individuals to find jobs. Okay. He supported Dream too, which is insane. Fuck, I know what Dream is. Fuck, I fucking know what Dream is. I'm gonna kill myself, bro. I remember DACA. Dream was Dream was the like Bill version of DACA, was it not? I'm thinking of DACA. I remember DACA was what's up, Goonaholic? Welcome in. You found the right place. Let's go. The first version of the Development Relief Education for Alien Minors Act was introduced in 2001. As a result, young undocumented immigrants have since been called Dreamers. Yeah. I know the Dreamers. I know the Dreamers. Over the last 19 years, at least 10 versions of the Dream Act have been introduced in Congress. The American Dream and Promise Act 2019 would provide current, former, and future undocumented high school graduates and GED recipients a pathway to citizenship. Yeah, okay. I know the Dreamers. I've seen TikTok edits of Obama talking about it.
Assuming it wouldn't, I think it would probably be supported by most of the country. And honestly, there's huge income disparities and huge wealth disparities in this country.
Oh, you see the smile on Alpha's face there. How you read David Splinter.
And a lot of, I think, our current economic, you don't think that there's a huge amount of wealth disparity in the United States?
It depends on what you mean by huge amount. So I
relatively
think
large compared to other countries, advanced countries.
I don't know if I would say large is like ambiguous. My understanding it is true. We have higher wealth and income inequality than most Western European countries. Maybe some of the Eastern European countries were relatively comparable in terms of like after-tax Gini, at least if you include most of the transfers that we have here. Do you think DACA was executive overreach? I'm really not educated enough to say. It is my understanding that it is like pretty widely contested as to whether or not it was legal, but I'm not educated enough to know whether it was exactly. So, but it's not like, based on what I do know, I don't think the current Supreme Court would uphold it. Was there a Supreme Court case about it at the time? I think there was, right? Or wait, this? There's a 2020 case about it. Overreach is a weird word. I would say no, but I can see it being contested. By overreach, I just understand overreach to mean like not within its constitutional powers. Which I agree, which maybe overreach has to be like a sufficient amount of like bad or whatever, because it's like a little, I don't know, it's a little weird to say like Biden trying to cancel student loans was like executive overreach, even though that was not within its constitutional powers, according to the Supreme Court at least. So. The order to rescind the DACA immigration program was arbitrary and capacious. But doesn't this actually imply DACA itself is constitutional, or just that the decision to rescind it was not constitutional? Clarence Thomas, in his dissent in part enjoined by others, argued the court should have further evaluated the legality of the original DACA. Yeah. Thank you, Clarence Thomas. Not surprising that Clarence Thomas would put that in there. Yeah, I don't think it actually ruled on DACA itself, but just extending it or whatever, or the ability to rescind it in the manner he did or tried to.
That might be somewhat fair. Obviously, we have higher inequality than Europe, but I think I don't think U.S. inequality is. I don't.
than what years past. I think it's actually, I think depending on the measure, it's higher than the 50s, but not higher than in the 17 and 1800s. Where are we here? I think this is top 10%. Yeah, wealth share to richest 10%. And we're the like dotted line here. And we're basically at where we were in the 40s. And I think we're the dotted gray line here. Elephant graph, guys. Elephant graph. Zuckman, elephant graph. I agree, easy money. Clip it, screenshot it.
I don't agree that much with that one. So I think if you look at just like post-tax and post-transfer income, and I particularly like the work of there's this economist David Splinter and Gerald Often. They have a lot of papers on this. They find like post-tax income inequality, post-tax and transfer income inequality just has not meaningfully increased since 1963. I think if you look at for wealth inequality, if you include Social Security in measures of wealth inequality, which I believe you should, that also has not increased since around the 60s, around the 80s. I still think we should have a progressive tax system, and there are like just instrumental gains from redistribution. And I think there's been an issue with increasing like the bottom 20% of Americans or whatever. A lot of their income is like government transfers, and that's not as salient to people.
I read a little bit of this paper, only like the first few pages of it. I read it in a Waffle House at 3 a.m. And it looks at some of the prior to the war on poverty, how much of the decline in poverty as measured by fiat money debunked this. Wait, this paper? Or you've been debunked by fiat money. Oh shit. How much of the decline in poverty was just due to poverty as measured by a amount of full income was due to transfers versus just economic growth, and most of it, unsurprisingly, most of it prior to the war on poverty was due to just growth. Among working age adults, dependency rate, which I think dependency is receiving less than half of household income from market sources. Dependency raised from 1.6 to 2.9% between 1939 and 1959. In contrast, dependency in this group increased substantially following the declaration of war on poverty, and ranged from 6.8% to 11.3% between 1972 and 2023. Whereas I thought there was from 1939 to 1959, market income poverty fell by 39.1 percentage points among all children and 23.5 percentage points among all working age adults, accounting for the entire decline in post-tax transfer poverty for these groups over the period. These market income poverty declines were even larger for black children and black working age adults. Yeah. Also, every debate about inequality and poverty is all just about how you measure healthcare income. What are they? I saw it here somewhere. Excluding health insurance. If you include, including a full market value health insurance in our income measure only slightly changes the reduction in poverty prior to the war on poverty, reflecting a lack of Medicaid and Medicare coverage in a period, though it has larger effects on reducing poverty afterwards, the full population poverty rate falling to 1.6% by 2023.
And that's not as like personally meaningful as like earning a larger market income. So I understand why people feel that way, but the data I've seen suggests that the gap is not super big or increasing, and then I don't know I'm not convinced that there are substantially negative effects from it as well.
Would you like to respond to that? Yeah. You got one more thing?
Yeah, I'll just say, as I said here, I'm
back when I had the full sugar monsters. What does the world come to?
not prepared to discuss the wealth inequality and income inequality gap, and so I'll be interested in what you have to provide. My understanding was that it's not contested, but if it is contested, I would want to know more about it, and your contention as well that it doesn't cause problems. I know it's a different metric, but I know that there are claims that real wages have stagnated. I don't know how much that factor.
Ah, you see the smile. You see the light in my eyes.
Your analysis either. But as I said, I'm not prepared to like rebut what you're saying. But please do send me your what you have. I would be interested in it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's very much contested. There are a lot of replies on those papers, and I also don't think the real waging is divided. But we can talk about that later if you want.
That interests me.
Sure, yeah. Just one last real quick thing, because I think you've said like for the reason you're more quote unquote like autistic or whatever in debates now, it's because you've talked to like ask yourself, right?
I think that some of the focus on getting semantic clarity, I think, has been helped by Avi and Ask Yourself, and I think it's been a godsend in my confidence that when I walk into these debates, I think so much in debates stick in equivocation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the way you debate to be clear, and I don't want to debate those. I'm just actually curious. I'm just curious if they've ever talked to you about the veganism thing, because I'm vegan as well.
I've never had that discussion on veganism specifically, but from the little I've heard of their debates, it sounds like a convincing argument, but I haven't spent a lot of time on it.
Okay, non-fon?
Yeah, you should go vegan or offset. But yeah, appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later, non-fon. Thanks for calling in. Okay, brother.
Thank you for watching. And if you... Whoa. Is that non-fon? Is that the real non-fon? I don't know. Maybe I should reach out to him again. Oh, killer. All right, people. Bad news is, I got places to be. Good news is, I don't work tomorrow, and I don't know. I should have more than one day off, I believe. Hopefully. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know for certain. And I'm getting that phone too, hopefully, and I can set up the TikTok debates better. But I'll reach out. I'll see if that one guy replies to my DMs that we were just looking at, and then I'll see if I can set something up with Caden still, because that never went anywhere. Should probably DM him again. And maybe I'll reach out to Pisco. Maybe I'll DM Pisco to see if he wants to talk about stuff. I think that'd be fun. But yeah. She's look at your schedule regularly. Refreshing to see it wasn't a definition debate, yeah. Yeah, they have not told me. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Everyone make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and all that stuff. And you can head over to, well, no one's really streaming on YouTube, so at least not that I can raid. Head over to fucking Ludwig. Tell Ludwig that Nonfon says hi. Make sure that Ludwig really notices his 20 viewer bump. Okay, love streaming. Love you guys watch your stream. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll try to set up some debates and stuff. Yeah, so see you guys later. Appreciate it.